Hi, I'm Eddie and welcome to my shop. I'm going to show you how I build this fire pit porch chair. It is a 19-step process it takes to build it, from a long stick of lumber to a finished part and into a final assembly. So without further ado, let's get started and I'll show you how it's done right here. So the first thing I do is I come over here to my radial arm saw and I cut all these blank parts out like you see here. Once I get all the pieces cut, I roll out my planer here and I plane all the boards to the desired thickness. It's usually around 7/8 of an inch thick. Okay, so once I get all the parts planed, I have to cut them on the table saw to a certain width. I also have to taper them and cut angles. Okay, so if you look behind me, you'll see on the wall hanging several different patterns that I use to trace parts with, and I have an example right here of how it turns out. This is the frame rail pattern that I use on the board, trace it with a pen, and then I cut it out on the bandsaw. I'll go ahead and show you these two operations now. after I get all the parts cut out on the bandsaw, there's usually a bandsaw type rough edge on the curved parts that I cut. So how do I get those smooth? Well, I use my oscillating belt sander and I just run the parts across. Let's take a look at how I do that. After completing all the sanding, then I come over and I lift the router up out of my table saw here. And I use it to put the corner edges on here that you probably can't see too well. I'll hold it up close to the camera for you. And I'll show you that operation next. Okay, so I've got all the parts sanded, the rounded edges done on the router, and now what I have to do is start my assembly process. Just before I start the assembly process, I have some parts that require pocket holes for the assembly. This is a gusset that goes underneath the arms of your chair, you'll notice. And this is the front leg. I put 2 pocket holes in the front leg, and I also put a couple of starter holes for the screws to mount this onto, the gusset onto, which holds up the arm. To make the pocket screw holes, I just use the Craig jig I have here. It's quite a simple process, and I'll show you that next. So now I've got all the parts made, all the holes drilled in every piece. Now I'm ready to start my assembly. I have a jig that I made that allows me to put each chair together the same way every time. I'll show you how that's done next.